Everyone knows classic arcade games. They dominated the 80s. They were still a huge draw in the 90s, and they never really went away. There have been endless arcade releases and revivals on every home console, and thousands of handheld devices released since the 1980s. But the gold standard for playing arcade games at home is emulation, made possible through a software program called MAME. MAME originally stood for Multiple Arcade Machine Emulator, but now it doesn't really stand for anything. The MAME project has been preserving arcade games since the mid-90s, making the actual arcade code playable on PCs and other devices. However, with all these options, something was lost. While you could play the games, the look and feel of the cabinets, the marquees, the amazing art, the control panels, was always an important part of the arcade experience. Actual arcade cabinets are attainable, but are expensive and usually require restoration and take up lots of space. But what if you could combine the experience of the arcade scene with the convenience of home emulation? You can, with a MAME cabinet. MAME cabinets come in many forms, from old arcade machines repurposed to run MAME, to home-built DIY cabinets, and an increasing number of high-quality kits you can assemble yourself, complete with realistic arcade artwork. For years, MAME cabinets were a relatively niche product, but the trend has accelerated thanks to an explosion of interest in arcade nostalgia. Several new players in the industry are driving the convergence of arcade cabinets and emulation, with one of the biggest being Arcade 1-Up. 3/4-size replica arcade cabinets containing some of the most popular games of the 80s and 90s. Arcade 1-Up has lowered the price point of arcade cabinets, often below $200, and introduced a huge new audience to the joys of owning one. While many owners are content to just play the games that come with the cabinets, it quickly became clear that you could easily modify the cabinets, adding cheap computers running MAME to play thousands of games. The downside to Arcade 1-Up? They're small, they're relatively flimsy, but they have served as a stepping stone, driving a new wave of interest in high-quality, full-size MAME cabinets. Most new MAME cabinets use widescreen monitors, but since arcade games used an old-fashioned 4:3 ratio monitor, that leaves a lot of extra space. This led to the development of overlays, graphic add-ons that fill the extra space with art. Over time, arcade overlays have gotten more sophisticated with realistic slices of arcade bezels and even arcade scenes, which started to bring back the feel of the arcade experience. But in the past few years, a new idea has popped up that offers the most immersive take yet for arcade emulation. By rotating the screen 90 degrees, the vertical orientation is perfect for displaying not only the game itself, but all the art surrounding it, including the marquee, bezel, even the control panel. Though you can build one yourself from scratch if you're so inclined, there are several kits on the market for building your own vertical cabinet that are about as easy to build as IKEA furniture. Once you have such a cabinet, or even just a PC monitor that rotates 90 degrees, there are hundreds of games you can play with the original cabinet art, such as early 80s classics everyone loves, action games that defined the later 80s, 90s games that remain popular hits, and even more recent cult favorites. Check out verticalarcade.com for a wide range of free vertical overlays for your favorite classic arcade games, and play them the way they were meant to be played.